after enough stalling, we're finally going to talk about the NFL draft. So, in case you didn't know, because I didn't know, the NFL draft is coming up this week. I believe it's Thursday. And I wanted to do a little bit of a talk about, what is the Lions draft strategy going to be? Because I think right now, there's a lot of angst. And a lot of that is deserved. And some of it is not deserved, but a lot of it is deserved. The offseason has not been the offseason that I think most wanted or expected, whatever you believe. And the team obviously last year going 9-8, missing the playoffs, watching the Bears get ahead of you with Ben Johnson, that it wasn't good. The vibes are not good, and you needed to have a good offseason, and so far it's been a little underwhelming. However, the draft has routinely been the thing that even the most ardent, anti-Brad Holmes people will admit is definitely his strong suit. And notwithstanding the 2024 draft, which is not looking great, pretty much all of his drafts, I would say, include at least one or two, like, guys where you're like, okay, that guy's actually really solid, and plays a significant role on the team. So, with all of that being said, what are the biggest needs for the team right now? And I think all fans of all ilks agree on this. Biggest needs for the team are edge and offensive tackle. Those are the two biggest needs. However, we all know that Brad Holmes likes to go with BPA. And I remember the Jahmyr Gibbs trade or the Jahmyr Gibbs draft. I remember drafting Jack Campbell, and I remember everybody getting very upset. I was very upset. I didn't want Jahmyr Gibbs. I didn't want Jack Campbell, although I was probably happier about Jack Campbell than I was about Jahmyr Gibbs at that moment in time. I wasn't feeling great. I was feeling a little angsty. I was nervous. Now, on the flip side of the coin, a lot of mock drafts, take those for what they're worth. I'm looking at the Tankathon mock draft. It's just the only one that I like. And a lot of them seem to indicate that best player available is offensive tackle or edge. Just going up and down this draft. Obviously, Mendoza is looking like the number one overall pick to Las Vegas. But then you got an edge going to the Jets. You got an edge going to the Cardinals. You got offensive tackle going to the Browns at 6. You got edge going to the Saints at 8. You got offensive tackle going to the Dolphins at 11. Offensive line going to the Ravens at 14. Edge going to the Buccaneers. And then you got Detroit at 17 taking an offensive tackle in Tankathon that they have them taking Monroe Freeling out of the University of Georgia. And obviously, the Lions are not averse to drafting University of Georgia O-linemen. They just drafted Tate Ratledge, who I think is going to be very solid for their offensive line in the near future and was really solid for them last year. However, there is still that angst, right? And look, some people have very serious levels of angst, and I'm here to ask these people, because I'm not an enemy of them. I understand the angst. I'm not totally where they're at, but I understand the angst. What could be done in this draft? Because, forget about the free agency, forget about the trades for right now. We're just talking about the draft, which is probably what the team is focusing on now anyway, over free agency and draft. And we should agree that is probably the better thing to do, because the draft is on Thursday, and you shouldn't really be talking to free agents or negotiating trades unless you're negotiating draft day trades. You should just focus on the draft. Anyway, what could be done in this draft to alleviate that angst? Now, if nothing could be done, then okay, there's nothing I can tell you. That you're just going to be angsty until the team wins the Super Bowl, and that's fine. You have a right to be angsty. But if it is something, what is that thing? And I think, as someone who is in the moderate angst, I think if they draft an edge or an offensive tackle, I think most of the angst will disintegrate. I think a lot of people will say, okay, you know what? I'm back on. They acknowledge a need. They acknowledge a need and a position that is not just a need right now, but a position that is going to be valuable for you in the future. You know, they draft an edge. They already have Aiden Hutchinson signed. Now they have his potential replacement / his backup, his opposite guy. Or they draft an offensive tackle, and obviously you already have Penei Sewell. He's the best offensive tackle in football. Don't even talk to me if you don't think so. He is. And now you have the guy on the opposite side of him. Okay. You're not at pick 17, you're not necessarily looking for future Hall of Famer or even necessarily looking at future All-Pro. You're looking for a guy that is going to be really solid, be a starter, play well for you. Obviously, you can get, All-Pro, Hall of Fame, superstar caliber players at that position. But you're probably not going to get the kinds of guys that you would normally get in the top 10. And most people would be willing to accept that, of course. So, here's the thing. If they draft an edge or a tackle, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be super happy. And I'm not sold on any particular player. I'm not. I'm willing to let them select that player for me because I don't watch the tape. I don't have the scouts, and they almost certainly have a better scouting team than me. Okay. I'm willing to give them that. If they go with a corner or a safety or linebacker, I might understand, but I won't like it. I won't be ecstatic. Corners and safeties in the first round, it's not that valuable of a pick or not that valuable of a position to use that valuable of a pick on. So I wouldn't want that. Even though Jack Campbell has been excellent, even though, if they draft a player of the same caliber as Kirby Joseph, that has been excellent. That's fine. I just wouldn't be ecstatic about it. Now, if they draft a receiver, a tight end, or a running back, I'm going to be completely baffled. I'm going to be completely I will just completely lose understanding, and I will be probably at that level of angst that most people are, and just think, what is the plan here? Are you just trying to be a contrarian? Because that is not necessarily a great way to run a football team. Sometimes it is, but probably not all the time. So, as someone who is still willing to trust a little bit, just give a little bit of, trust but verify, I really hope that Brad Holmes does not further the angst that is already in the football team. Now, look, he shouldn't be answering to us anyway. He should be doing what he believes is right for the team. But man, if you don't see that what is right for the team is probably in the trenches, i.e. the offensive tackle or edge position, it makes one wonder what it is you think is the reason or the flaw in the team that you have constructed. We'll see. The draft is, I believe, on Thursday, so should be an interesting evening for sure. Hey, YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.